Okay, let's do this. Thank you very much. It's actually not social media. I'm just going to talk about social businesses in general. My experiences in doing social business and my, my 2 cents on why perception and image about social business is completely dead wrong. I want to share with you why I am here as well. In 2009, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor conducted research globally in 49 countries. I moved to Malaysia in 4 years ago, so which was 2 years after the research. When I read this research, it was kind of interesting and kind of shocking at the same time, because Malaysia is a relatively developed country in Asia in general, if you compare it with other countries. And what this research was looking for is the prevalence rate of social entrepreneurship. And if you don't know what prevalence rate is, it basically puts off the amount of social entrepreneurs versus the working population, and you end up having a particular percentage to show how many people of the working population have or are a social entrepreneur or have a social business. And out of 49 countries, Malaysia ended up being number 49, all the way on the bottom. And this is very interesting to me because Malaysia is a relatively prosperous country, but around it there are so many things that need fixing, right? I've been to the Philippines, I've been to Indonesia, I've been to Vietnam, I've been to Cambodia, I've been to even Thailand. And there's so much stuff that needs to be done in order to help this country advance. And it seems like Malaysia, at that time when the research was conducted, is not doing much to actually help their neighboring countries. So I want to share with you some statistics about some data in general in the world. First of all, before I do that, there's some post-its here. Can somebody help me hand out the post-its to everybody? And what I would like you to do is write down what social entrepreneurship means to you. Just 3 keywords, the first thing that comes to mind. Don't think about it too long. Take 3 post-its, write something on it. You should have a pen on your chair or underneath your chair. So, some data, right, as I said. First of all, there's 7.3 billion people on this planet today, approximately. Out of which 1.1 don't have access to water. That's 1 in 7. That is approximately 7, 8 people in this room. 2.6 don't have sanitation. 2.6 billion, that's 1 in 3. That is 30% of this room. There's 800 million adults that can't read or write. They can't even write their own names. 1.6 billion people that have no electricity. And a lot of them are actually in Southeast Asia. 40% of the population in the Philippines lives in slums. That's almost half of the country in slums. I don't know, who's been to the Philippines? Nobody here? Just one. I've been to Manila. Robbie, okay, don't be shy. Please raise up your hand. I've been to the Philippines and I've seen families, vast majorities of families living under bridges, living in the slums. It's terrible. And 1.3 million children of this 40% population don't even have the privilege to live in a slum. They live on the streets. In Malaysia, to make it a little bit more close to home, right? 30,000 tons of waste is produced. That is the equivalent of every single taxi in KL, which is 60,000, completely stuffed with trash every single day. Out of which 10% is being recycled, which is ridiculous if you ask me. In Malaysia, there were 12,659 gang robberies last year, 4,436 assaults last year, 37,000 motorcycle thefts, 17,000 break-ins, 2,000 rape cases, which was the year before was 4,000, so it's actually going a lot better. In the year 2013, and the worst of all, this is not in Malaysia, but this question was actually a legitimate discussion in the court of Delhi. Is forceful sex with a 65-year-old woman punishable? I ask you, is it? Of course it is. It's retarded that we're even thinking about this. Worldwide, 64% of Muslims believe that death penalty should be imposed for apostasy. I'm not a particularly religious person, but I respect whatever everybody does. Whether you're religious or not, whether you start a religion, abandon it, doesn't matter. It doesn't define who you are, I think. As opposed to 10 years of imprisonment for rape, leaving a religion, death penalty. This is a quote in Dutch, and this represents kind of what defines me, I think. And it says, een beter milieu begint bij jezelf. And this was a very large campaign in the Netherlands when I was growing up, when I was 11, 12 years old. And the literal translation of this is, a better environment starts with you. And to me, what this means is, you need to lead by example, right? And I will explain to you a little bit more what that means. But leading by example also means that we need to educate people that they need to stop solving first world problems. Who has heard of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz? Anybody? Heard of Dorothy? Okay, yeah, me too. There is actually an app that is getting a lot of traction, that is getting a lot of attention, that allows you to click your heels to order a taxi. And when I'm reading this, I'm thinking, is this really the best way to spend our energy, our time, our resources, to create something like this? Is it really that Uber, which I love by the way, needs 1.2 billion in funding, really to solve a problem that we have, so that I can have more convenient taxi rides, so that I have to wait a little bit longer? Of course, it's going to make it safer as well. Again, I love Uber. I have nothing against Uber, but at the same time, it's creating a lot of problems because it's putting families, hardworking families, out of business as well. And I think that $1.2 billion, which was the first round of funding, they're actually getting another round, could also be invested in actually addressing real problems. One of the problems that we just mentioned, just pick one. Pick one and design your business around it. It's not that hard. So there's 4 types of entrepreneurship. This is my content part. So there's 4 types of entrepreneurship. 1, pure social entrepreneurship. 2, pure commercial entrepreneurship. 3, simultaneous social and commercial entrepreneurship. And 4, overlapping social and commercial entrepreneurship. I'm going to explain to you the difference, and I'm going to explain to you why I think that only one of these is a lasting, sustainable solution moving forward, so that we can actually do something about this data that I just showed you. Okay, first of all, it's not social entrepreneurship. Let me explain to you why. Anybody knows who these people are? Just shout out loud, doesn't matter. No, 1600, in the 16th century, 16th and 17th century, these were purists, oh my God, I forgot it. Anyway, they were from the UK and they colonized the US. They went to the US, Puritans, my apologies, Puritans. In the 1600th century, they went to the US basically for religious reasons, is what they say, because they were very religious people. But at the same time, they went there, of course, to make a lot of money and to exploit other people, because that's what they did at the time, it was very cruel. And at the same time, these people were also Calvinists. I don't know if you guys know what Calvinists are, but Calvinists is a very strict religion in Christianity, and basically, these people are taught to hate themselves, because any form of self-interest sends you straight to hell. This is what they believe in. They were also very, very aggressive capitalists, so they were very, very fond of making money. So self-interest and making money, you have kind of a problem there, because if you make a lot of money, what are you going to do with it if you can't use it for yourself, right? So what they did is they invented charity. They made it so that 5, 10 cents out of each dollar that they made actually was sent somewhere else so that they could produce more money. So the whole mindset behind charity is wrong, and this still happens in the United States and in different countries around the world. Actually, Robbie was telling me a very interesting story about this as well, which I'm not going to share right now, but I encourage you to talk with him, because this type of behavior has led to taxation laws, regulations that allows the companies and celebrities, people with a lot of money basically, to capitalize on the fact that they're giving away money. So the whole foundation of charity is wrong. Now, I'm absolutely not saying that social entrepreneurship is wrong, not at all, because there are certain issues in this world that cannot be solved without it. They cannot be solved without philanthropists, because in some problems there's just no market, so you can't create any economies there. So their social entrepreneurship needs to come in, because these people rely completely on our generosity, right? So, but moving forward to address all these problems, I don't think this is a feasible solution. Then there is pure commercial entrepreneurship, which helps solve a lot of issues. However, in my opinion, and I consider myself to be an entrepreneur, but I'll explain to you the conflict that I have, the internal conflict later. This is the definition of an entrepreneur, and I don't know if you can read it, but it says, a person who sets up a business or businesses taking on financial risk in the hope of profit. Can anybody tell me what is missing or what is wrong or what is not there? Any ideas? Very good one. Absolutely. Why is it so that an entrepreneur is being defined as somebody who makes money? This basically is all about money. It says financial risks in the hope of profit. I consider myself to be an entrepreneur. I actually sometimes consider myself to be a social entrepreneur. Not all the time, but most of the time. But this doesn't define at all what I'm trying to do. This doesn't define at all what Incitement is trying to do and why Incitement started. Why Incitement started is a person who sets up a business. This is how I would redo this definition basically. A person who sets up a business or businesses taking on financial risk in the hope of impact and creating profits as a result. Because that's what an entrepreneur is supposed to do, right? Solve problems, create value. Like Da Young said, solve a damn problem. And with the coming of the internet, this has worsened and worsened because now anybody can make money online really, really, really easily. And you can put up some shitty product and trick people into buying something and make money, you know. It's become more and more self-interest, and it's diluting the core of what entrepreneurship is about to me. I don't know if you guys agree, but for me it's about value. It's not about profits per se. Profits are equal to impact, but if you have to choose, it's secondary. This is why commercial entrepreneurship is not going to fix our problems, because it is just about profits. Now, simultaneous social and commercial entrepreneurship is basically one person who has two separate legal entities as companies. One is a social business, one is a commercial business. So it's basically a combination of the two. So I'm going to not explain why this is wrong because I just explained these two basically, right? So no point to explain that, but I don't think that either one is a feasible solution to move forward. That leaves us with overlapping social and commercial entrepreneurship, which basically means one person in one legal entity as a business doing both of these things at the same time. So there's a combination between overlapping between social and commercial entrepreneurship. Now this also has a lot of problems, but this I think is the way we need to move forward, because we have this perception of what social is supposed to be, right? We have this perception of what business is supposed to be. But let me explain to you why this is also problematic and how we can address this to move forward. This is the reason why social entrepreneurship or overlapping social and commercial entrepreneurship is problematic. Before I explain this picture, I don't know if you can see the difference here, right? This person says 4, and it just depends on how you look at it, basically. You know, it depends on who's looking at it. You know, there's no real definition because there are 4 and there are also 3. Before I explain why this is the problem, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So this is a picture of me and my mom on the left and my dad on the right, obviously. I went home to the Netherlands and I surprised my dad on his 60th birthday, you know, knocking on his door, coming from Malaysia, saying, "Hello, happy birthday." It was really, really nice. And I learned 2 very important things that define me as an entrepreneur from both my mom and my dad. And I want to explain to you which ones these were. One is my mom. When I was 6 or 7 or 8 years old, I did something wrong and I can't exactly remember what. I believe I told my mom a lie and she found out. So I was standing at the backyard of our house, at the back entrance, and my mom was standing in front of me and she was furious. I was standing like this because I was afraid. And this wasn't the first time that this happened, you know, because I wasn't very easy growing up. But I remember having a small piece of paper in my hand, just crumbled up, and I was standing with my hands behind my back like this, and I dropped the piece of paper. And my mom looked between my legs and she turned red. She became completely angry and furious. And at that point in time, I didn't really understand, like, what, you know, it's just a piece of paper, you know. I was a 7, 8-year-old, you know, what is the big problem? It was behind our house, you can pick it up later. What is the problem? But the problem was that no matter how small the thing is that you do, in terms of trying to create a positive impact, it will have a ripple effect even without you realizing it. No matter how insignificant you think what you're doing without anybody seeing it, for example, if you do something good or if you do something bad, it has a ripple effect, whether you realize it or not. So the point here that I'm trying to make is you need to do good no matter how small it is. You know, this is basically how like social entrepreneurship is being seen right now, is that you have to address like one of these huge, massive problems that are there, you know, like 1.1 billion people that don't have access to clean water. It's not the case. Absolutely not the case. You can also inspire one person standing right next to you, like Robbie has been doing, going around the world and just talking to people, because lasting change comes from within, and lasting change takes time. There's no quick fix, there's no band-aids for this. So if you do good things, not only will good things come to other people, but they will also come to you. That was my lesson from my mom. Now, back to my dad. My dad is the most righteous person you'll ever find. And if you talk to him, you will find out why. And I would love to introduce him to you sometimes. What happened is, when I was in high school, again, I wasn't the easiest kid, and it only became worse when I got older, up until I was 18. I was terrible. But there was one lesson where there was a substitute teacher, history teacher, and she couldn't assert any control. So people were messing with her, like very in cruel manners, like how school kids are. But I had empathy for her at that point in time. I wasn't messing with her because I felt sorry for her. So I was just sitting there quiet. I wasn't trying to address my students that were trying to do something wrong as well. I was just sitting there quiet, just trying to behave. And a lot of people were sent to the principal's office at the time. I wasn't. However, the day later, the principal called me and says, "Daniel, you're expelled for 3 days." I'm like, what the fuck? Why? Why did I get expelled? What happened? He said, because you got sent out of the principal's office, and this particular teacher came up to me, said that I was being a pain in the ass, and I didn't do anything. I did a lot of things wrong, but I always owned up to what I did wrong. I always took responsibility for my actions. I didn't do anything, and I didn't know what to do. I can't say no. I can't say, go screw yourself, So I went home and I had to tell my parents. "Sorry, Mom, Dad, I'm expelled for 3 days, right?" And my dad was like, "Why? What happened?" So I explained the whole story, and my dad, again, just like my mom, was furious. Not at me, at the principal. So the Monday after, he joined me for school. He went to my high school, and he sat down in the principal's office and tried to engage with a conversation with him. And in the meantime, while he did so, he sent me to the class. So I went to German class, first class in the morning, and the German teacher's like, "Danny, what are you doing here?" "I'm having classes." Okay. So I sat down, and the principal came and plucked me out and sent me away. While my dad was still in the principal's office, he wouldn't leave. Second class, math class, algebra and shit. I suck at it. But I was in this class, and the principal came again. He plucked me out of this class after like 10 minutes or so, and I was just going back and forth. I didn't want to say no to my dad because I kind of had the feeling he was doing the right thing, but at the same time I was expelled. I couldn't go into class just like that because I would be plucked out, which happened. So my dad was just like, "No, we're just going to sit here. You're going to go to class because this is not right." Up until the point where the school had to call the police, and the police had to come in because my dad wouldn't leave his office. My dad was sitting in the office and was taken out by the police from the principal's office just because he stood up for what he believed in. And 2 days later, believe it or not, the principal came to our door apologizing to me and my dad because he was wrong, because he double-checked with the teacher. What this taught me, I'm getting goosebumps while I explain it, it's crazy. If you believe in something, you fight for it. No matter how many naysayers, no matter how many people laugh at you, no matter how people don't believe you, I don't give a shit. If I believe in something and I believe something is right, you need to go for it. No matter what. No matter how many people call you crazy, there will be one person that won't find you crazy and will help you. So, the two things that motivate me as a social entrepreneur are righteousness and doing good, no matter how big or how small. Those are the two things that motivate me as a social entrepreneur. Now, if you have Post-its, write down the two things that motivate you to do good things or to be a social entrepreneur in 30 seconds. Don't think about it too long. First thing that comes to mind. And again, afterwards, slap it on the wall. Just two things. If you look at the definitions of the 4 different entrepreneurs that there are, which one do you think applies on you? For me, I don't really know, because I'm not an entrepreneur because I don't focus on commercial benefits only. I'm not a social entrepreneur because I don't focus on the social output only. I focus on both. But if somebody asks me, what do you do? I'm not going to tell him I'm an overlapping social and commercial entrepreneur, right? Because it doesn't sound nice. Nobody's going to know what this means. It's just confusing. So there's a conflict, if you ask me. There's a conflict in social entrepreneurship. And the problem with this is that this stops us from moving forward. So how do we change this? I think personally, and I've been having many conversations with many people, that we need to come up with a different name for the word social entrepreneur. And I don't know you all personally. I don't know if you're actually a social entrepreneur or an entrepreneur or one that falls in between, but I'm the one that falls in between. Because I think doing good things should be rewarding, not only for the person that the good things are for, but also for me. There's no problem with making profits or benefits or revenues if you're doing good things. Who cares how much money you make if you're doing good things, as long as you're doing it in an ethical and responsible way, right? As long as you're helping solving these type of problems. So the last thing that I would like you to write down is, what do you think this type of person should be called? Because moving forward, I think we need to make a stance, kind of, and we need to let people know, we need to educate them that there's a difference between these two things, and that we need to kind of be able to identify us with a particular word that I don't know what it is. But if you look at a business development manager 10 years ago, right? Today is a growth hacker. Nothing much changed, except for evolution of business, but the role is still pretty much the same. If you look at a data analyst, today is a big data architect. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a growth hacker or a data architect? It sounds fucking awesome. Seriously. But an overlapping social and commercial entrepreneur doesn't sound very awesome. And I'm not an entrepreneur, and I'm not a social entrepreneur. I'm neither, so I don't know what I am in that case. I don't know how to call it. So what I would like you to do as a closing exercise, because I'm not going to leave you with a bang, I'm not going to leave you with some grand story. I'm going to leave you with a question. How do we change this? If you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a social entrepreneur, then what are you? I want you to write down one word that you think applies on this. The first thing that comes to mind. 30 seconds, and slap it on the wall. I hope that you're going to have a good day here. I thank you all for coming, and I'm pretty sure that all the speakers that are coming up are going to give you exactly what you need. Inspiring stories, market validation of your idea, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Thank you.